Chapter 34. The mail, bearing her precious possessions, transporting them to her friends in Dublin, arrived in remarkably short time, and the recipients rang up and said their final goodbyes. A chapter closed. She had lost a lot of weight, and as we passed the mirror in her bathroom one day, she commented that her face had changed. I replied that she had her Dublin face on, and she was pleased by that. Remarkably, her face was never disfigured by her disease, our Julia still visible. I was busy getting her into the toilet when she casually mentioned that there had been a letter from Dublin, a letter from the child. I thought she'd been dreaming or was confused, it seemed so unlikely. But there it was, a single piece of paper written in his childish hand, declaring his love for her. The palliative care team routinely asked her for a report on her pain level, but she was dismissive of reporting her pain to us, almost as if it was a secondary concern, her mind occupied by higher things. She was, however, distressed by the constant discomfort of her bowels, a continuous pressure that drove the trips to the toilet. We could not reassure her that it was just the cancer, that it would be better to do one less move from the security of the bed. Each night she insisted that the dressings on her wounds were changed, despite the medical advice, afraid of another infection, insisting that we take note of the healing process, the wounds packed up with gauze where the flesh didn't meet. The staff, patient, familiar with their ward. But the team did at last convince her to take her drugs intravenously. She surrendered to the shunt, and she discovered that her pain was relieved more quickly. Their concern was controlling the pain, making her comfortable. Julia's father usually arrived early in the mornings to spend the time with her and was there for the team's visit. I was frustrated by his inability to take in any vital information because he was always overwhelmed by his own grief. He had an early appointment one morning, so I was there for the team's visit. The doctor welcomed me in, glad of the opportunity for which he had been waiting. The aim was to get her home to die. Julia had spent enough time in hospital and enough time at home to make a decision. A hospital bed and nursing equipment could be delivered to her home, but the doctor's concern was that we would be able to cope. Julia did not hesitate in her response to his questions about our ability to take care of her, assuring the doctor that there wasn't any need for worry. My mother is experienced. She nursed her own mother and father and partners as well. She nursed her mother as she died at home in my mother's bed, Julia explained, her trust in me complete. We had discussed those deaths. I explained that my mother had chosen to say goodbye as death pulled her from my bed, encouraged by us all to let go. But my father, who had lain motionless for days, had been unable to make that transition until the room was clear of the people he loved. Each death is different, I explained. No two the same.